also we are growing right now. Last year we performed really well, but we are still growing. So last year and this year we plan to do more than 200 webinars. And then we are starting again also live events from next year on. So we'll update you from you and we will disclose some further information. So make sure to follow us. And we have had more than 50,000 registrants last year. What do we offer more? We also offer other services to our community. So if you want to be part of our community, you also have access to other 400 network meetings, which are based on specific topics. For example, next week we will have a specific network meeting where we will invite our speakers to join and to network with the people who might be interested in digital transformation. So we create business opportunities in general, and we also started working with EU projects and funding. We already have an ongoing project with one of my colleagues, and this project is already on its way and started giving some results. So in general, what do? We give insights. We try to connect with the policymakers as well through white papers, position papers. We have a magazine. You can always check Vision for Europe. I will give you later some links. You can always subscribe to our newsletters to have the news. We are really active on social media, especially on LinkedIn, and we will host yearly awards as well. Then, of course, as a technology chamber, we have some our virtual tools as well. We also organize virtual expos with virtual booths, and we can also help create and manage events. So today's plan, I'm already starting introducing the UTech. So now next we will have our speakers, and after that there will be the question and answer section. You can already start writing your questions already when the speakers are talking, and then we will reply later when the speakers are finished talking. And then we will close and we will give our free certificate to our speakers. Okay, so now I present to you the first speaker. Let me introduce you to Antti Kosunen. Antti is a professional investor who jumped back to business to save the globe. His mission is to make companies take environmental impacts into account in every business decision making. The vision is that all the companies will know their environmental impacts as well as they know their financial impacts today. He is an expert on corporate metrics, now utilizing his knowledge on measuring the most meaningful impacts, environmental impacts, focusing on connecting data from the supply chain and making the data insightful. So let's see what Antti has for us today. I will give him now the presenter's rights and he will show us his presentation. Let me put first the presentation for you, Antti, and then you can introduce yourself and talk about what did you do. Let us explore what did you do with life cycle assessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Salvatore. I'm trying to show the presentation. It's not allowing me to do so.
The presentation is already on. Make sure that you have not minimized your presentation. So eventually restore the presentation on the bottom, down, right. Same for all the people who are listening, for all the users. If you do not see the presentation, just click on the bottom right button with the presentation icon. And that is to view the presentation.
I have a dream. I have a dream that someday every companies will know their environmental impacts like they know their financial impacts today. That is my dream. And to continue in my dream world, this is what I expect to happen. All business decisions will take environmental impacts into account. we are not there yet. A few steps needs to be taken before every business decision will take environmental impacts into account, and that's why we have to start it today. Why I'm talking about this is because that's what I do for a living. So we are connecting supply chain data for comprehensive LCA. So we are providing the most comprehensive, most accurate data for any environmental impacts that you can have of products, and still have a means for doing business scenarios quick, fast, so that they are actually the part of every business decision making. So I'm CEO of Earthster.org. Hey, one of the core questions is that when we talk about environmental data, environmental impacts, who should care? Whose plate is this on? And other equally important question is that, so what? So what? And let's start with the second question first. So why does it actually matter? Why is it something that we should be digging into? Answer is quite simple. It's a must. This is where the world has come, and it's a must. It's a must because of the regulations. That's a curve showing how the number of laws and regulations are increasing. There's a dramatic increase everywhere in the world. Some of the ones that are facing us today here in Europe is this one. So starting next year, there will be the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive that I guess that most of you are. If you are part of those bigger companies, then you are already familiar with it because you are getting ready for it. So 50,000 EU companies must report their environmental impacts starting next year. And then later, the rest of the companies will have to do the same. And also, it has to be more accurate day after day. Okay, another aspect to it. It's not only a must, but it's also good business. And I'll give you some examples why being sustainable, being greener, why it's good business. 81% of consumers say that they take environmental impacts into account when making purchase decisions. 83% of procurement, they ask for environmental data, environmental impacts when asking for offers. If you want money for your business, these guys are asking for it. Somebody asked me that what's the number, what's the percentage of investors thinking about environmental impacts of investments? My answer is all. Some of them make more conscious decisions to be more sustainable, some less. But that is what they do, not because it's not only because they care about the environment, but because it's good business. It's a risk mitigation thing, but also the becoming greener creates a lot of business opportunities. One of the major movements is the science-based targets commitments, and 1/3 of the global market capitalization is covered by the companies that are committed on becoming greener. And if you want to do business with those guys, you have to have the product data, environmental impact data, because they need it, and they will be requiring from you. Starting from a situation that they are asking for it, then they are demanding for it, and eventually they are creating greener products together with you. Our background is in MIT and Harvard. We are a European company, but one of the learnings when we discussed in MIT with the biggest technology companies is that the carbon accounting is not good enough anymore. They are not using carbon accounting data, not even accepting it from their suppliers like they used to do that. They are just using database numbers because they are more accurate if they do LCAs with database numbers. And the funny thing about carbon accounting or the company data is that when you do business, you don't sell your company, you sell the products. And that's the data that you have to provide to your customers. Okay, now I'm making you think again, or maybe make you guess. So we did a case for Caterpillar, so excavators, and the question what I'm asking from you guys is that what percentage of life cycle emissions happen after the factory gate? A lot of learnings that you can figure out from LCA, and when the product is done, so every emission that happened before that, getting the raw materials, using the metals, taking other materials on the production or logistics. Don't know if we have a chat. It would be cool to see those guesses, but Salvador, do we have a chat here?
Yes, so we have a chat. I already see Simon saying 2%.
So, hey, why don't you give me a guess? What percentage of the whole life cycle emissions happen after factory gate? Is it 98%, 65%? Half of it, 20, 35, 2, 80?
We have 50, 65%, 35%, 80%, 98%. So we have not a clear idea. So a lot of different ideas of supposition. So from 2% to 98%, 50%, depends on maintenance as well.
Yeah. Okay.
80%,
so,
80%.
And when that study was done, Caterpillar were estimating themselves that it's 80%. But 80% of emissions of the product life cycle comes after the product has been purchased. The real number is 98. 98% comes from use phase. So pretty much it is the diesel engine that is emitting. And how you produce it, what kind of business travel you have, or what kind of production, so how do you purchase the materials, that's 2% of the total amount of emissions. And if they want to impact the world, then the core thing is that design the kind of products that turn off the engine and provide different kinds of comfort for the user of it, so that it stays warm and you don't use the engine when it's not needed. So that's 98%. Surprisingly big number. 98%. Okay. Well, these guys are doing potato chips, and they were purchasing potatoes, paying per kilo, and the end result is that they got potatoes that were stored in humid places to have as much water as possible there, and then they were having a very big expense on trying the potatoes before they can make chips out of that. And while doing the environmental impact assessments, they figured out that they have to change the way they are paying for the potatoes. And then they made millions of savings that is in the benefit of workers as well as in the benefit of the nature. So much less energy is used. But you have to do an LCA in order to figure out those numbers, that kind of things. And usually companies don't know those until they do an LCA. One more learning, Dell computers. You remember that they were the ones that you can tailor the computer or the laptop exactly what you want. And then the individual air delivery equals to same emissions as all other product emissions till factory gate. So everything that you do on production, getting the electronics or doing the minings and manufacturing, the logistics till the moment it leaves the factory gate, is the equal amount of emissions than the individual air delivery. So if you want to do good for the environment, think about how you do better business and different kinds of learnings. I think this was quite funny. Pharmaceutical company, biggest emissions come from sales reps, travel, and expenditure. the stuff that they give the doctors, the flights that they take them to Caribbean or whatnot, and then all that marketing part, the car being the biggest ones, the one that they travel to meet the doctors in different places. These are old numbers, but I took them here because these guys already started this 15 years ago. And then Xerox reported that by designing their products to minimize the life cycle environmental impacts, they saved 400 million. Zara reported €500 million. €500 million. So it pays to be environmentally friendly. So my first question on whose plate this is on, it's that it's on every business professional's plate, because then you end up selling more. Your consumers, companies, investors, they want that. And then you figure out ways how it makes sense to figure out ways how to save money on the production or logistics. All business decisions will take environmental impacts into account sooner or later because it's good business. But it's also good for the nature. And I like languages. I'm so to say language nerd. So word nature, what is the word nature? And there's a subset that is the biggest beneficiary of everything that we do for the nature. And that subset is called human beings. We are part of the nature. That's why we need to do environmental impact assessments to have data so that we can change to be greener. And that's why we founded Earthster. Now Salvatore say, thank you, Antti, and give the stage to Gabriel.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll have some questions for later. Now let's present Gabriel and what he does, how he impacts as well this work. Gabriel, I met Gabriel recently because I'm new as a coordinator here at the chamber, and he's already super available guy. So first of all, I would really like to thank him because he's calling from Argentina, and I know it's not that easy at the moment to call at this time from there. Well, Gabriel is the co-founder and chief digital and innovation officer at Miraico. He is a digital transformation, innovation, and mobility expert with extensive career in large multinational companies. He co-founded Miraico, a consulting firm that helps organizations to develop new mobility business model based on sharing and sustainable economy concept, and support them on the transformation to be prepared for a fully digital and global world. So thank you again, Gabriel, for being here. I really appreciate it. And the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you actually so much, Salvatore. Really good presentation, Antti, and well, good morning, everyone. Yes, I was thinking what Antti was presenting, and the challenge is not as you said, we support companies on deploying digital transformation strategy or plans. And when we talk with the companies and try to develop those plans and being aligned with, the strategic goals of the companies, some of them, of course, in Latin America and in other parts of the world have their sustainable goals, no? But sometimes they don't know how to, measure that, or even they don't know the impacts of the whole process, no, on the environmental. And one of the challenges that we have is not only convince them that, as Antti said, it's a good business, right? And consumer also are asking for more sustainable products, no? But also because not only the consumer, but for example, in Europe, from next year, we will have the carbon border adjustment. So companies will need to report, the impact of their production to the consumers, right? In order to have more sustainable products, not only on the creation, but as Antti said, after they just leave the gate, not only in the reuse and also in the recycle. So we are also not only as we have been seeing in LCA, but also we are just supporting them on, as I said, on that strategy, and trying, for example, to deploy IoT and other technologies in the company in order to start measuring and having numbers, right? And trying to move to digital twin concept in order to measure, understand the impact of the whole manufacturing process, procurement, supply chain, and after that, what is the impact of that process until after they just leave the company, and also trying to, as I said, gather information of that process in order to provide that information to consumers and just generate more environmental awareness on the consumers and how they use those products actually. So this is what we do, and there is a lot of challenges on, as I said, on that, and many of them are just coming from what Antti said, and the first one that we face, as I said at the very beginning, it's convince the companies that it's a good business, and maybe Antti can also talk about that, but that's one of the first challenges that we are facing when we are trying to align the digital strategy to support sustainable goals.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. But I would have a question. So do you see that there are like differences in the markets? At what stage do you see the markets? Because you're calling from South America. I don't know if you had contacts as well with Europe or North America, if you see any gaps in the difference. I take the occasion since you're from another continent and would like to have a better view on this, if you think.
Yeah, of course. Of course, and Latin America has, it depends on the country, but eventually, when we talk with companies, mainly small and medium companies, it's like they're facing other issues and they have other concerns sometimes on top of their priorities. And that's why sometimes it's harder to, move forward or just make investments on LCAs or technology related to the sustainability. However, as I said, for example, since we will have next year the carbon border adjustment in Europe, that will force a lot of companies outside Europe to make more sustainable products if they want to export it to Europe. So that's something that are pushing companies to make more sustainable products, to have a more sustainable process creation or manufacturing. Of course, if they want to keep exporting, and being competitive in Europe. But really, I think that in Latin America, we are one step behind, what is happening in Europe. Of course, there is a, general concern on sustainability and the impacts on the environment, and we are trying to measure carbon emissions, trying to compensate that, try to somehow make process much more sustainable, but and in the other hand, provide information to the customers of how to maybe recycle the products that they have, and trying to also convince companies to move from traditional linear economy to circular economy. That will be also a key to achieve sustainability.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriel. We already have some questions. There is a question for Antti. I don't know if you see it in the public chat. So we have a question from Dr. Alberto MF. Thank you so much for the awesome presentation. Antti, one question. As a healthcare professional, which source information did you use to approach the pharmacy industry travel expenditure data? Quite a mind-blowing info, unfortunately, and something too deeply to think about indeed. Thanks again.
So there was a little
So
bit.
the question was about how did you approach, how did you got in contact with the data about the pharmacy industry travel expenditure? I could personally answer as well at that. I give you my personal experience because I worked as in the past as a business travel agent for a pharmacy consultancy company, and I had a lot of people going here and forth, back and forth in all Europe, sometimes just for one day, and you have to take flights. One day you go in the morning, you come back in the evening. So there's quite a lot of people moving around just for the communication part, for the sales process. There's a lot going on. So I can imagine that, but I'll be more concrete. I'll leave Antti answer this question on the data specifically.
So how we get the data is we always start with a generic data, so input-output data or spend data, and then we see where the focus, and then we see that the biggest emissions are there. Then on top of that, we use commercial databases like EcoInvent, and then the EcoInvent is kind of filling the holes or refining the numbers to be more precise. And then we ask the company their own data, so that they refine the data that is different from market averages that one gets from databases. And then the fourth thing is that there's a system in our there's a button in our system on Ørsted.org that you can invite suppliers to fill in their own data, and the whole idea of that is it becomes a living LCA, so always up-to-date dynamic system that anybody can anytime go and check what are the current environmental impacts of this or that, or if I change the travel to be a little bit less, or in manufacturing industry, it's more like how about changing 10% of less aluminium or whatnot. So you can immediately see the results. So different kind of databases, and then we collaborate with the best consultants, environmental consultants like Anthesis, or the last project we did with Deloitte. We learned that actually the surprising positive surprise was how much data companies actually have on pharmaceutical industry, also on environmental impacts. So these 4 places will be correct data.
All right, thank you very much. Then we have Bolo David is asking a comment on the sustainability gap on products produced by P&G, like baby diapers. Do you have any comments on that?
Now I heard the question, but I didn't quite understand it. What was the question?
Like I think it was, if David, could you please explain more extensively? I think it's more about the fact that some products are quite not really sustainable, and he was making this example about Procter & Gamble with baby diapers, and how would you improve that process? Maybe it's just an example, but I suppose that in this case you first need the data, of course, as that's Andy's job, to see where the most emissions are, which are the parts of the production or of the subsequent phases which might affect sustainability.
Yeah, exactly. That is. I just answered somebody that he was asking on LinkedIn, one of the groups, he was asking that, what should I do in my situation? And I said, nothing until you know the data. And like the Caterpillar example, 98% of the emissions come from the use phase. So get the data first and then take your actions. One of the features that we have implemented on Earthster is that you can compare different types of products, whether those are the old school diapers that are reusable diapers or made out of plastic or recyclable or whatnot. You can compare them, and then you can see all the impact categories or what are available, that what kind of impact there is in this product compared to these other products on CO2 or human health or use of water, use of natural resources or biodiversity or whatnot. So they're always there, but get the data.
Thank you. Then we have many questions. Yeah? So we have Benoit Leroy, who is asking, is distributed ledger technology widely used to ensure data integrity, immutability, and transparency? I don't know if you have any direct approach with that.
Not much yet. I know that there are several projects but more than securing using the blockchain on blockchain technologies, I would say that it's more important to have the dynamic data, and that's what we have created, so that it's always up to date. It's a tool for scenarios. Companies can do what ifs and then change the data immediately when a supplier changes something in their process. If they decide to buy this from Argentina instead of buying it from Brazil, and so that the impact would be there. So it's unfortunately environmental data is not as accurate as it should be, and then there has to be more processes, more checkups that they are real data. But more than doing that is to have more of the data.
Thank you. I think, Gabriel, you want to add something on this?
Well, since we work with technology and blockchain as a distributed ledger, the problem is that still, I mean, it's maybe expensive to make a lot of transaction maybe in the blockchain. So although when we put all the information in the blockchain or in distributed ledger, we ensure that the immutability and transparency of that information, still there is other ways not to be secure and not not deploying a blockchain, or transaction in the blockchain, but I believe that as long as the cost of deploying and making transaction in the blockchain is reduced, probably most of the company will move not only information coming from sustainability and LCA system, but other operations to the blockchain.
Yeah, thank you. So the distributed ledger technology is efficient, but still needs to lower the cost for the companies to enter, right?
Yeah.
And I would say that I'm one of those nerds who like blockchain, but in general, what is our ideology at Earthster, that we have designed a tool for humans so that humans are using it. Of course, you can take the data for other systems also. Blockchain isn't really designed for humans. It's designed for the nerds. The usability isn't there hardly anywhere. And again, I'm one of those who love it, but it doesn't matter what I care. What I love it, only thing what matters is the experience that our customers get. So that's why it's not part of us, at least not yet.
Okay. Then we have a question for Gabriel. Efe Egboge, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If not, I'm sorry. Question for Gabriel. Scope 3 emissions is quite difficult to manage in organizations. Do you have any advice on how organizations can handle this through digitalization?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. Scope 3 emissions, it's basically all the data or emissions that come from maybe your providers, things that you don't manage. Maybe, Antti can confirm that, but it's basically the data that you ask of your providers, for in the whole supply chain process. So it's been really hard because, as I said, at least in Latin America, they don't even manage their own information. So asking information to their vendors, for example, on the carbon emissions is even harder. So always our advice is first try to digitalize their own system, moving to digital twins, and then of course asking that type of information about thermal emissions to their key vendors. In order to include it in the whole process and try to measure the whole impact of the products that they are manufacturing. Because as I said at the very beginning, probably there is a lot of companies and organizations and countries that will be asking for the impacts of their products, and that will not concern their own manufacturing process, but also of the process, the impact of your key vendors. So at least for the key vendors, you need to be sure that they start thinking and they are aligned with your sustainability strategy. And the first thing is start to measure. So what we advise the companies is that they select their key vendors and at least start supporting them and asking them to start measuring their impact in order to inform the company. That's the first step. I don't know, Antti, if you have any other comments, but sometimes it's hard to do it in your own company, so it's even harder not to ask maybe to your key vendors.
Yeah. I can give you an easy answer and then the realistic answer. The easy answer is just use Earthster and push a button and then the data will be collected from the suppliers. That's the easy answer. But seriously, it doesn't happen that way because there's a lack of data available, a lack of understanding in the supply chain. What data should they be giving, how they should be collecting it. And but the positive news again is that that's a business opportunity for consultants. And then environmental consultants, as well as the business consultants nowadays are doing this kind of projects, helping the supply chain to deliver the data to their customers. And always when there's money on the table, then the development happens. And again, when consultants make lots of money, then the nature will be saved.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. We have many questions. I think we're going well, but we have another question from Simon Hughes. Thank you both for the presentations. Can you both comment on what needs to happen for data publication and reporting of the type being discussed, LCA, etc., so that these analyses become more widely accepted?
First, I would say, ouch. It's not easy. There are so many standards that are being developed and discussed, and in practice, it means that there aren't any reasonable standards. Of course, there's ISO 14040 that is, but like we follow that also, like many others, and then the amount of data that is being collected, the more we talk about it, eventually there will be some kind of standards. Then in this case, I also like regulators. I think regulators should utilize the capitalism, but be strict, demanding a lot of data, proper data. So that will be done in collaboration with the regulators as well as with companies. One good example that I may want to point out is the science-based committed companies. So that's one of the best ones that is creating the structures, creating the KPIs for this.
All right, thank you. Then we have Reena Pavitran asking for a suggestion where to find a free website where to calculate carbon footprint. I don't know any, but you can answer in the chat if somebody knows one. And we have a question from Vishal, who works in FedEx. Hi all, I work in FedEx, Saudi Arabia. Logistics is one of the industry that is a major contributor to carbon emission, air, land, ocean freights. Recently, FedEx, as well as other logistics companies such as DHL, UPS, have committed to working towards delivering a more sustainable future, including a goal of carbon neutral operations by 2040, 2050. Do you think climate neutral services in logistics industry will really help in balancing emissions? So this question maybe might be, Gabriel, do you want to answer first in this?
Let me. Yeah, I really don't have that so much experience on that. Maybe Antti, it's better to reply. But
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about the subject, Antti? Do you have any idea on logistics?
Well, the good and bad news is that they are emitting so much at the moment that the smaller percentage change there is a dramatic change overall. All the major companies like DHL, they are working to get something done.
Yeah, what I can say, Salvatore, is that, I mean, not the process logistic, but of course in the mobility area that in which we are working with sustainable mobility, of course that, transportation, that area is one of the areas and industry that have more impact, in the environment because of the oil consumption. So what I can say on that, and of course is related to logistic, is that electromobility is growing, and there is a lot of companies that are just already thinking on electrify their fleet. Now, how to move to hybrid vehicles, electrical vehicles, and so on. The problem is that specifically for logistic, the autonomy of the vehicles still is really low. No? So you need a really good charging infrastructure in order to really electrify your whole fleet. Of course, there is a transition. You have hybrid vehicles, you have gas vehicles. So there is many things that you can do before electrifying your fleet. I know that there is a lot of companies, as I said, that are already moving forward, but still there is a long way to that. Maybe micromobility and on logistic that is related to the last mile. Of course, it's easy because already 50% of the vehicles that are selling in the world are electric. I mean, 2 or 3 wheels vehicles, scooters, bikes, and so on. But for large vehicles, still, there is a lot of challenges. And I don't know even if it will be electrification or we will go directly to hydrogen or other technology. But of course, that logistical transportation has a huge impact on that, and there is already a transition that started to electromobility or electrical vehicles.
Yeah. I would add that also for the air transportation, something is starting. Small air carriers are already not easy to say how it will go, of course, because time, I guess, in logistics, it's a really important issue. Therefore, it needs for the electric engines to be as fast as the normal fueled ones, I guess.
Right. No, and still navigation and air transportation, it's a huge challenge because vessels are just consuming a lot of fuels and they are just making a lot of emission. And I think that is still there. No, there is a lot of opportunities, and we are just far away of having or achieving, logistic by, vessels or navigation really sustainable.
Yeah, what we did an assessment for Amazon 1-day delivery versus the longer delivery times, and again a dramatic change. What we can do for that is provide the data to consumers also, and when consumers realize that, okay, if I get this stuff today, the environmental impacts are huge compared to getting it in a week, and then they can ask themselves that, does it really matter if I get it today or in a week? Providing data to consumers. Hey, also, sorry about going back when somebody asked if there's a way to get the free product footprint. If you want to do a product footprint freely, then you can do that also on earthster.org. We have a free version also. That was a commercial.
Okay, so also for the next question, you can go check earthster.org, sorry, and check yourself. Another question to Gabriel. Do you see as an excuse that regions out of EU find it expensive to invest in technologies when the costs are usually transferred to consumers?
Mm-hmm.
RFID technology has been helping ensure data integrity and dynamic data and achieve sustainability targets in EU in manufacturing automobile supply chain for years. So do you think that it is an excuse that in some other areas of the world?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think that is an excuse, and really, I'm agreeing that maybe you can transfer part of that cost to the customers. The problem is how to still be competitive in price, no, and being sustainable at the same time. That's why, for example, what I was saying about the cross-border adjustment, no, that it will start running next year. It's trying to balance that, no, actually. So there is some additional, cost for the companies that are not complaining or achieving, sustainable goals in order to make it equal for everyone. So again, if I have to reply, it's not an excuse. And actually technology lower the cost during these years. Not only RFID, you have a lot of sensoring, IoT, and a lot of other technologies that really can help you to gather information. Then you have a cloud computing that will really help blockchain. So there's a lot of technology like that you can deploy, and maybe it's not so expensive, but you need to make your whole process efficient in order to be still competitive when you are just deploying that kind of technology. So the key is how to make that in a really efficient way and still be competitive in other markets.
I would also add that the consumer behavior plays a huge role in this case, because in some markets the consumer is more keen to spend more to have other type of benefits for a more sustainable future. Some other markets the general consumer behavior might still be on other steps. So I would say that these plays a role on what you can charge on the customer, because then you cannot be competitive, as Gabriel said, right?
Yeah, and there's another thing that we are seeing in electromobility is that we are all concerned about sustainability, but then how much we are willing to pay, for that, And the example is electrical vehicles. They are much more expensive to buy, even that is generate less impact in every sense, and and it's have like lower maintenance and have plenty of advantages. But one of our barriers to moving electromobility is the price of acquiring electrical vehicles. So again, that's why even you can just acquire all the technology. It's how your final product product is competitive and attractive to the final customers, no, or end users.
Sure. In the end, the customer is king, right? So that's the one who decides.
Yeah. Yeah, but on the other side, Salvatore, you need to inform. You need to provide information to your customers, no, because otherwise they don't know. So that's why LCA systems and gathering information and gathering data, transforming information and actionable data. It's really good because you need to start, also informing your customers the impact of the product that they're consuming, and generate more awareness about that.
And then when customer is the king, but customer is also the collaborating partner in creating LCAs, in creating the greener products. And that's when there are tools that you can design greener products together. So that kind of collaboration is what should happen more. And Tobias is asking about that how can he show his digital service to be more sustainable than other ways of doing it. Many things that you digitalize are more sustainable, not all, but many. And the real way how to show it to your customers is to design it together with your customers. Get a workshop, sit in the same webinar event, and take a tool like Earthster or the likes, and then design it together with them. Think about, what if I take the 10% less aluminium? What about if you change the logistics? What about instead of having the physical that, it's a digital version of it, and then you can see the instantly the results of it. So design them together with your customers.
Thank you, Antti. I think we're done with the time. There were some other questions, so let's see if we can answer really fast on this and then we conclude. Tobias, right? We are a company selling a management software, helping companies to save time in the certification process of the products. Do you have any tip on how can we show our clients how we also help them become more sustainable by digitalizing their internal process? So a short comment on this, and I will conclude then after this.
Well, I don't know, Antti, if you want to reply that.
Well, I kind of answered that already, but you can tell the absolute truth to that, Gabriel. So please go ahead.
No, I mean, as I said, I mean, we are. The first thing is that if the customers doesn't have as a goal, to be more sustainable, whatever to say to them will not be, as Antti said, a good business, because they will not see it. So they will be investing in something that will not add value or will not be aligned to their strategic goals. So if they already have that in terms of sustainability, of course, there is a lot of things, not only what Antti said, LCA system, but also trying to deploy system to be more efficient in energy consumption, water consumption. There's a lot of things, a good business, a lot of ways that they can save money with that. But there should be a willingness and of the company and the top management to really move forward with the strategy that will collaborate with their sustainable goals. Otherwise, it will be really hard because they will not see the benefit.
All right. So thank you everybody for being come first. Before leaving, I remind you that there is next week, same time, a network meeting if you're interested in connecting with the speakers or among yourself if you work in the same industry. And I want to thank our speakers. We have here a tree certificate for our project in Africa. So we plant a tree for every speaker. And I will send the certificates to our speakers, and I really thank them for the contribution. I think today was a really insightful webinar, and I'm must admit I really liked it and would really love to continue talking on this. So let's keep in contact. Antti, Gabriella, we'll have a chat on this topic or other topics related. And I hope you enjoyed as well. And well, if you have any final comments, I'll leave you the floor.
Thank you very much for this one. Let's save the globe together.
Thank you, everyone. It was a really nice talk and webinar, and really it's a really important matter, and it will be a challenge in the following in the following year. So we will keep talking about that for a long time.
So very thank you. I was muted. Very thank you to everyone, to all the questions. I think it was really insightful. And as we say here at the EU Tech Chamber, technology obliges. So bye to everybody. And you can always contact me on LinkedIn. You can contact with our speakers as well. So make sure to keep in contact and promote network and promote these really useful connections that might help us for a better future. So thank you, everybody, and see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Salvatore, Antti. Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
You are currently the only person in this conference.